With its long-standing and legendary culinary history, the city that never sleeps inspires people to dream big and drives them to create and cook outside the lines. We're going into the kitchens of 4 of New York's top chefs to see how the Big Apple inspires them to translate their unique experiences into signature dishes. Behind the Dish, New York. The term melting pot is said to have been coined to describe New York City, and perhaps there's no better use of that phrase than to describe the region's cuisine. From a duck flambé reminiscent of Chinatown to local lamb inspired by travels in Turkey, an elevated birthday cake to a Filipino take on pad thai, New York knows how to fuse cultures and ideas to create something wonderfully new. At the Beatrice Inn, chef and owner Angie Marr has been redefining the traditional New York City chop house with her unapologetic approach to meat, and she boldly translates her childhood memories of Chinatown into one really hot dish.
The duck flambé is just incredibly special to me because I think it's really an homage to my father. It is really founded off of my childhood memories of the Peking duck in Chinatown and also what my father used to cook. I'm Angie Marr, and I'm the executive chef and owner of the Beatrice Inn in New York City. We have pretty much a wait list for this duck. I think it's just really fun to come here, get a great table, and have this beautiful experience of this duck being lit at your table and smoking and on fire. It's a lot of fun. To make this duck, it's a really long process and a labor of love. We cure our ducks in pink curing salt, sugar, kosher salt, and smoked salt. It sits in cure for 5 days, and then we cold smoke our ducks with cherry wood for about 20 minutes. And what that does is it just permeates the raw meat, and you get this beautiful smoky flavor all the way down to the bone. After it's cold smoked, we stuff the ducks with thyme, truss them, and then slow roast them at 300 degrees for 2 hours. And what that does is all of the beautiful smoked fat renders out of the duck, and we're left with this beautiful, thin, crispy skin. And we actually save all that rendered duck fat because that's what we use to cook our fingerling potatoes in. For our potatoes lyonnaise, we use fingerling potatoes and baby red creamers. We boil them with kosher salt and thyme until they're just beautiful and soft, tender all the way through. We throw our potatoes into a hot pan with our smoked rendered duck fat and get a nice, beautiful, crisp color, golden brown. After that, we add some caramelized onions. Our potatoes and our caramelized onions are beautiful and they're golden brown in the right color, seasoned beautifully with salt, and then the parsley just adds that nice freshness at the end that we really love. So once we're done with our potatoes lyonnaise, we make our cherry jus. We start out with a little bit of duck stock that we've reduced by half, and we add to that some dried Bing cherries. We let them rehydrate in the stock, and we add sugar, salt, and a little bit of black pepper. We let that simmer away and reduce all the way down till it's a beautiful Nippon consistency, just so it coats the back of the spoon. And it becomes so beautiful, and it tastes of roasted bones and fresh fruit, and it just really plays off of the smoke and the meatiness so well. After the duck rests, it gets brought to our guest's table, and we light the cognac on fire, and we pour it over the duck, flambeing it. It not only is so visually stunning, but it also adds a really nice aromatic note to the room. Once the duck is flambéed tableside, we bring it back to the kitchen and we butcher it. You get the whole thing, the legs, the breasts, as well as the wings. There's so many different cuts of meat. They are lean, they're fatty. We finish the duck with the cherry jus, and it goes back to the table, served with the fingerlings lyonnaise. It's truly a really beautiful dish, and I think it really represents what we do here at the Beatrice. It's all about meat, fire, fruit, and herbs. The duck is gamey, it is meaty, and it is smoky. And what I love about the potatoes is it adds that earthy creaminess to the dish, and I think it's just the perfect complement. And it means so much to me when my dad actually comes to this restaurant and eats this dish, because I made this dish for him. And it's kind of a thank you for all the amazing food memories that he's given me.
Next, we head upstate to get a taste of Turkey, where Chef Zachary Palacio, chef and owner of Fish and Game, celebrates the local bounty with his smoke-braised lamb. At his world-renowned farm-to-table restaurant Fish and Game, chef and owner Zachary Palacio celebrates the Hudson Valley's rich bounty with inspiration from his far-flung travels.
Lamb is one of the signature animals of the Hudson Valley. When we opened the restaurant, we asked ourselves, what does this place taste like? This lamb is a perfect example of the answer to that question. I'm Zachary Palacio. I'm chef and owner of Fish and Game Restaurant in Hudson, New York. The lamb shoulder that we serve is inspired by time I've spent in Turkey. We had befriended a local farmer, and they served the lamb with yogurt and some fava beans. The combination to me just was so representative of my philosophy. We turned that lens onto the products of the Hudson Valley. Turkey being the inspiration, but the products of Hudson Valley being the unique quality that makes it something Fish and Game. The dish is really all about the lamb shoulder. We use lamb from Kinderhook Farms here in the Hudson Valley. It's meaty, it's dense, it's beautiful. And the way we start out is by brining the lamb shoulder. The brine is made, the mixture of water, salt. We use a little maple syrup. You could also use sugar. We put the lamb into brine and we let it go for at least 48 hours. If you're in a pinch, you can do it for 24. Once you take the lamb out of the brine, season it with olive oil and salt, you put it on the grill. Grill it on all sides, get nice color on all sides. Wood fire is a signature of Fish and Game, and it really infuses it with a smokiness. And then what I do is put it over indirect heat. We have a rack on top of our grill where we let it sit for about an hour, just really building the smoky flavor in the lamb shoulder. After that, we get our braise ready. So the first thing we do is chop up all our aromatic vegetables. We have fennel, garlic, and onion, and then we're gonna throw them into a pot and saute them, lightly sweat them with a little bit of olive oil and salt. Once our aromatic vegetables have sauteed, we make a bed of them in the pan. And we pull the lamb off the smoker, put it on top of the vegetables, and then we cover it with our fish sauce, our wine, and our water. And this recipe is a white braise. We throw in our spices, which are coriander and white peppercorn and some fresh thyme. We cover it and we put it in a 200-degree oven. And then every hour until it's nice and tender, you pull it out, take a look at it, baste it. So this basting method is really more about infusing the flavor of the braising liquid into the lamb itself. Once your lamb is fully cooked, and a good way to tell, a little trick, is the shoulder blade, it'll be poking out because the meat will have contracted. So if you can wiggle the shoulder blade and it feels loose in your hot lamb, you know that it's done. You're going to strain out the liquid and start reducing the liquid. When straining your liquid, be sure to dump all the vegetables into your colander or into your chinois, whatever you're using, and press with the back of a spoon or anything else for that matter to ensure that you're really extracting all the delicious juices that are welled up inside of the vegetables. Put the pot on the burner and reduce it by about 1/3. The lamb right now, it's cool enough for you to work with your hands, and working with your hands is important because you're gonna find those natural separations in the muscle groups. And that's really kind of cool. You really start to understand the anatomy of the lamb. You'll notice that it's gonna come apart in sections. It's all about the flavor at this point, so if you feel like you've shredded it too much, that's really okay. But if done correctly, you shouldn't really have more than 4 or 5 big chunks of meat. We always like to serve a nice fresh vegetable with our lamb dish. Right now we're using cucumber. We slice the cucumber in half lengthwise in order to give it enough surface area to really get char on that whole cut side. And then we season the cut side with olive oil and salt. Put it on the grill. Make sure the grill is really hot when you put it on. If you have a low grill, you're gonna end up just sort of smoking your cucumber and not getting color on it. So if the grill is for whatever reason not hot enough, we have some tools. We have one we call the Dragon. It's a blower, basically blow through it and can blow oxygen into the fire and increase the flame. The idea is you don't wanna leave the cucumber on the grill for too long. You wanna hit it with some high heat, get a little char on that thing and pull it off. Lamb, yogurt, and cucumber, it's just really classic and really simple yet beautiful and elegant combination. So I put a portion of lamb on the grill, and while I let that reheat and get a little more char and a little more smokiness, just to really reinforce the point, I put some of the yogurt onto the plate. Just spoon it onto the plate, make a little pool of it right in the center of the plate. Once the lamb is grilled and charred and tasty, I put it in a bowl with some of the braising liquid and toss it. It just coats it with even more lammy goodness and the fat from the lamb. And it just, you're just layering flavor, which is, to me, what cooking is all about. And then plate it right on top of the yogurt, add your cucumbers, sprinkle with a little pink peppercorn. It's got just that right hint of sweetness, which the dish doesn't have at all, but also that sort of elusive spice that you can't quite pin down. And there you have it. This is our lamb dish. Smoked braised lamb, house-made yogurt, and grilled cucumber with a little bit of pink peppercorn. I think this lamb dish captures the story of Fish and Game really well. I love how we can use local ingredients to create this amazing dish that, while at the same time making me nostalgic for time spent in Turkey, it's something entirely unique to our time and place right here in the Hudson Valley.
New York is a city of 5 boroughs and countless stories. Genre-defying baker Christina Tosi has been credited for changing the face of baking and made it her mission to incorporate her stories of the strong matriarchs from her childhood into her baked goods. And Tosi does just that with her reimagined and innovative birthday cake at Milk Bar in Brooklyn.
The birthday cake at Milk Bar is my grown-up professional pastry chef from scratch version of the box cake that my mom used to make me every year on my birthday as a kid. I learned how to bake from my mom, from my grandmas. The matriarchs in my family were really big bakers. I'm Christina Tosi, the chef, founder, and CEO of Milk Bar in Brooklyn, New York. The birthday cake is the perfect example of my voice through a baked good because it takes a food memory from childhood, reconstructed from scratch with insane time, technique, and great ingredients. The birthday cake base is the base of the entire layer cake, arguably the most important part. In the base of a stand mixer, paddle attachment, you're gonna add your fat, so your butter and your shortening. You add your sugars as well, so your granulated sugar and your light brown sugar, and you start creaming your fats and your sugars. It's still gonna look a little bit like a sandy mass, but you wanna do it for a minute or two until the ingredients are well combined. From there, you add your eggs. You're going to start mixing those together. And then you're gonna start to alternate adding your oil with your buttermilk. So your oil is going to add fat and moisture. Your buttermilk is going to add, believe it or not, flavor and crumb structure. So once both of those wet ingredients are added in, the flavor of a great birthday cake is actually using something that's called clear vanilla extract. Make sure your clear vanilla extract goes in the mix. At this point, your batter is very, 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 very wet. It's totally fine. Scrape down the sides of your mixing bowl and get your dry ingredients together. So cake flour goes in, kosher salt, and then you're gonna add your leavening ingredients. Baking powder, that's really big in this cake. It gives it a little lift while allowing it to stay dense and moist enough. Start that mixer on low so your flour doesn't go everywhere up in your face. And you're gonna mix those dry ingredients on low until you have a nice smooth mixture. From there, rainbow sprinkles time. You want those like confetti moments of color and flavor and brightness and birthday to all remain separate. So add those sprinkles at the end. You're gonna take your quarter sheet pan out and pour your birthday cake batter into that quarter sheet tray. Goes into the oven at 325, 350 degrees, depending on the power of your oven. And you're gonna let it bake for 15 to 20 minutes until it jiggles just a little bit in the center. The edges are starting to come off the sides of your baking pan, nice and golden brown on top. I take the same section string I'm gonna build the cake with, and I actually use it to start measuring out where I'm going to cut these rounds from. Once I cut those rounds of cake out, I clean off my cake ring, and I reset my work surface. I take that 6-inch cake ring, and I line it with this thick piece of plastic called acetate, and I start assembling. The bottom layer is always the layer where you can hide the most mistakes, so that's where I start with the two halves of my cake. I force those to the outside, and I use any bit of cake scrap to fill in any missing holes. Cakes are very, very, very forgiving when you're layering, so don't be intimidated. take the birthday soak, which is a mixture of whole milk and clear vanilla extract, and I put 3 generous spoonfuls of soak down. Soak is there to help give your cake extra moisture, and it's there to help impart flavors. It's time for your first filling, that birthday frosting. 3 spoonfuls down into that bed of cake, and I actually like to smooth my frosting evenly across the bed of that cake, all the way up to the side of the acetate. Birthday cake crumb. That's a little bit of a sneak attack in this cake. All of our layered cakes at Milk Bar have a little crummy, sandy texture hidden in between, and birthday cake is no exception. I take a handful or 2 of birthday crumbs, and I just sort of toss them evenly over the surface of the cake. For me, it's important that I get a nice even layer of birthday crumbs, but I want a few of them to peek to the outsides of the cake and a few to be hidden on the inside of the cake. Once my birthday crumbs are down, it's time to cover them up with another layer of birthday frosting. Once that's done, you're gonna follow those steps all over again. Now, once the cake is fully layered and decorated, it goes into the freezer for 2 or 3 hours so all of those fillings set perfectly. Once 2 or 3 hours is up, the cake comes out of the freezer, and I pop the ring off the cake. And then you peel the acetate back while the cake is still nice and frozen. That ensures those really beautiful, smooth outer lines. From there, I let the cake defrost at room temperature for 2 to 3 hours before taking a slice and digging in. The flavors are like nurturing and emotional and deep, but they're also simple. It's like a clean, creamy vanilla flavor, whether it's that nice, dense, spongy cake, the creamy frosting, or those sandy birthday crumbs that surprise you in a bite. This birthday cake, it captures one of my first and favorite food moments that I've always held on to as a kid. And I love making it and baking it and layering it and serving it to the world every day at Milk Bar. It's a little slice of me.
Coming up, executive chef Dale Talday boldly makes flipped, forward-thinking food as he shares a tasty tale of immigrant ingenuity with his reinvented pad thai. Dale Talday, chef and co-owner of his eponymous restaurant, effortlessly blends techniques and flavors of Eastern and Western cuisines at his casual yet elevated Asian American restaurant. And it's hard to find a better example of Talday's eclectic approach to cuisine than his inspired take on a takeout classic.
My version of pad thai is definitely that immigrant story. Pad thai is not a typical Filipino dish. With the Filipino cuisine, especially here in America, what we are amazing at doing as a culture is if we cannot get our hands on ingredients that are traditionally used in a dish, we're really good at taking American ingredients, finding other things that are around, and turning it into our own. I'm Dale Talday. I'm the co-owner and executive chef of Talday. Food as the immigrant story here in America is a way for us to know where we came from and understand where we're going. For our recipe for pad thai, I really wanted to make sure that it had personality and it stood out from the rest of all the takeout pad thai places that you are normally getting. The heart and soul of this pad thai is the sauce. The first thing we're gonna do is slice the shallots, and then we're gonna crush the garlic, and then next we're gonna smash the kaffir lime leaves. This is really important to release those essential oils within that lime leaf. It's such a beautiful, bright flavor without adding acidity. After the lime leaves, we're gonna smash the lemongrass. Slicing lemongrass, you won't get the full effect or all of the flavor. You need to smash lemongrass, almost like pulverize each little fiber. Wok cooking is typically very fast and hot. We're gonna get it really ripping hot, touch of oil, and then go in with almost all of our aromatics all at one time. The shallots, the garlic, the lemongrass, and the kaffir lime, and we're really gonna give that a nice toss and some really high heat to release some of these oils and break down the shallots and break down the garlic. After your aromatics have been sauteed and broken down just a little bit, we're gonna add tamarind, sriracha, fish sauce, water, paprika, and then sherry vinegar. And this is the bulk and the body of what this sauce is gonna be. Final ingredient, also equally as important, is palm sugar. Palm sugar is from palm trees, and it's the sap that's been cooked down into a sugar, into little pucks or bricks. And this is gonna really round off all 5 flavors. We're gonna cook this sauce down for about 15-20 minutes. We're looking for it to reduce about 1/3. And once you've strained all the aromatics out of it, the garlic, the shallots, the lemongrass, the kaffir lime leaf, this sauce is basically ready to go. very big part of cooking in a wok so nothing sticks to the wok. It's eggs. So we're gonna take our eggs, crack them, beat them. While you're doing that, get your wok very hot, add a little bit of oil. When you add your egg to the oil, make sure you're moving it constantly. You don't really want a lot of brown on your egg. You want to keep it nice and yellow so it doesn't get rubbery. The next ingredients we're going to add to the pad thai are what's going to make it texturally interesting. We add carrots, chives, peanuts, and bacon, and we saute all that up to release some of the flavor from the peanuts, to also warm up the bacon and crisp it up a little bit. The next part of this dish is the main event, the noodles. These are rice noodles that we've rehydrated in some water and then drained. Now we're adding it to our wok. It's very important that when you're stir frying the noodles that they're getting as much contact with the wok as possible. They are going to pick up a lot of that wok hay or that beautiful carbon flavor, much like a grill. Stir frying this for 2 to 3 minutes at a really high heat is probably one of the more important parts of this dish. And now we're gonna add our sauce. It's about 3 to 4 ounces of sauce, but it's what's gonna bind everything together and give it that lusciousness, that spice, that heat, the acidity, that umami. And it really ties this dish together. So now we've added our sauce. We are finishing the dish. A little bit more crunch, some herbaceousness. We're adding bean sprouts, basil, cilantro. If the noodles need it, we add just a touch more sauce. In the wok, we're gonna toss this a few more times, get the bean sprouts, the herbs, that touch of sauce you added at the end, all combined. Now it's just ready to go to the plate. To finish the dish, we're just gonna add a sprinkle of peanuts, shredded red cabbage, a wedge of lime, top off the pad thai with the crispy oysters, and then squeeze a lime over the top, the oysters and the pad thai. When it comes together, it is really unexpected. The beautiful briny crispy oysters, the smoky salty bacon, and it does remind you of pad thai, but in a way that you haven't had it before. I really believe that this pad thai embodies the story that we're trying to tell through the food and the restaurant and everything we're trying to do at Tully. It shows how some kid from Chicago whose parents are from the Philippines come to New York City, dream big, and make funky, cool food that people love and dig.